better to have a check right now, especially with his history.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's what they told us,
Yeah.
you know, that you had to, anything, you have to get it checked, because it went on his lymph nodes, is it?
Good evening and welcome to the Mount Olive Township Council meeting and workshop session for May 16, 2017. If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence for all the men and women that serve us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Michelle, would you read the Open Public Meetings Act, please?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda? Here. Mr. Ferrante? Mrs. Labow?
Here.
Mr. Mania?
Here.
Mr. Stewart?
Here.
Mr. Roman?
Here.
Mr. Nacastro?
Here. First item up, Mayor has a proclamation from Childhood Apraxia Awareness Day.
Thank you. It's from the Office of the Mayor honoring Childhood Apraxia of Speech Awareness Day. Whereas May 14, 2017 marks the third annual Childhood Apraxia of Speech Day, during which awareness will be raised about childhood apraxia of speech, a particularly difficult, persistent, and severe speech and communication disorder in youngsters. And whereas childhood apraxia of speech, or CAS, causes children to have extreme difficulty learning to speak and is among the most severe of speech and communication problems in children. And whereas the act of learning to speak comes effortlessly to most children, those with apraxia endure an incredible and lengthy struggle. And whereas that without appropriate intervention, children with apraxia are then placed at high risk for secondary impact in literacy and other school-related skills. And whereas that most children with apraxia of speech will learn to communicate with their very own voices only if they receive early intervention and appropriate frequent speech therapy. And whereas that it is imperative there be greater public awareness about childhood apraxia of speech at the local, state, and federal level. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Robert Greenbaum, Mayor of Mount Olive Township, do hereby proclaim May 14, 2017 as Childhood Apraxia of Speech Awareness Day in the Township of Mount Olive. Signed by me, Mayor of Mount Olive Township.
Thank you. Next item up is recognizing Gerald Sheard's years of service with the Bud Lake Fire Department. Mayor again.
Thank you. Jerry, I'm just letting you know I'm keeping the bubble paper, because it's bubble paper. Come on up here, Jerry, please. Join me. There are many times that I run into Jerry at different events throughout the township over the years that I've been involved, and I know that your involvement has far exceeded anything that I've done in town in terms of the amount of your time and your efforts and your family's efforts on behalf of the Township of Mount Olive. And I got a little bit of information on you, which I'm going to read into the record, but I know that it doesn't half actually tell the story of your involvement, efforts, and betterment on Mount Olive's behalf. Jerry served in the Navy aboard the U.S. Saratoga and retired as a lieutenant commander. He served as a firefighter and fire official for Montgomery County in Maryland until 1971. He joined the Bud Lake Fire Department in 1971 and served in the following positions: engineer, corresponding secretary, recording secretary, captain, second assistant chief, and department fire chief. Jerry served as a fire instructor for the Morris County Fire Academy from 1973 to 1986. Peggy Sheard, his wife, was also a life member of the Ladies Auxiliary and passed away in 2010. Jerry also served as a council member and was on the planning board. And Jerry has blessed us with 5 sons: Larry, Gerald, Danny, Robert, and John, who were all supposed to be here tonight, and I hope they were able to join you. Besides that, I've seen you at robotics events, on the street, during emergencies, fire emergencies, and many other events where you have just been a pillar of the community. On behalf of my office and on behalf of the town council, I'd like to award you with this beautiful plaque, Lifetime Achievement Award, on behalf of Mount Island Townships. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for the town, really much appreciated. Mark, you want to say a few words? If you want, you can say how much I've done for the town also.
Hold on a minute. What have you done? I mean, we've argued a couple of times.
I'm just going to play here with the bubble paper.
I just want to thank you for it. I wasn't expecting this, but yeah, I have served both Montgomery County, Maryland, and Coast Guard, Navy, and of course the township quite a while, since 1971. And I enjoy it. Hope to be around a couple more years, providing my fellow councilman sticks alive with me. We were born the same day. People don't realize it.
And Nick
so was
Geiger.
Nick Geiger. All three of us were born the 21st. So, but thank you anyhow. Thank you for being here, folks. Thank you.
Thank
you,
you,
Jerry.
Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, and thank you again, Jerry, for everything. Next item on the agenda was, we received some information on the Energy Efficient and Renewable Energy Program that was sent to us. I don't know if everybody had a chance. I just figured I'd bring it up because it was sent to us to go through. Basically, what they're looking for is a resolution, I guess, where, we're going to look to be more energy efficient. If you read it in here, there's certain things to do, and I know we do a lot already with energy efficiency in there, but I just figured it was something I had to bring up to discuss because we received the information and wanted everybody's opinion. Mr. Roman?
I perused the sample resolution that they want us to introduce, and frankly, I was appalled by some of the language that they're wanting us to use. But I don't think that this township needs any resolution in order for us to be energy efficient, because in the past few administrations, we have done just that. We have looked at various ways to save energy, and at every opportunity where new advances in technology affords us that ability to save the taxpayers money, we do it, and we do not need a resolution directing us to do anything of the sort. So, I frankly could not see the need to add this to any of our resolutions.
Yeah, I was not sure. I just brought it up here because I wasn't sure if there was stuff that we received by becoming energy efficient. I didn't know if that makes a big difference or not. Maybe Laura knew anyway. It says, the information here was saying when you pass a resolution, you qualify for up to 70% of available money for, and I didn't know if that's something, that's why I said I was looking at it, I just brought it up for discussion. Not that I'm either way, as Mr. Roman says, we do a lot already in here, but I just was curious to know, that's all.
Yeah, I can look into that. I mean, I assume they're referring to the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant, which we will qualify for anyway. Maybe this is just another factor in
Right.
considering funding. I mean, I can check into it to confirm if you'd like.
Yeah, other than that, I agree. Unless there was some extra funding that we had to look at for something else, if we do everything, I believe we do a lot anyway. But again, it was sent to us, so I figured it was bring it up to the council and see if there was any.
Yeah, I did notice that there were some things in here that might not be very practical. I mean, I don't know how we're supposed to measure emissions of the entire
Yeah,
town
no
to
idea.
meet certain benchmarks.
Yeah, no idea. I'm sure they know, but I have no idea.
It would cost
Thank
money.
you. So everybody's all right. Yeah, there really isn't much to, yes.
And are we even certain that the group in question, is that a government entity, or is this just a nonprofit?
I'm sorry, what, the
The
organization?
organization that sent us this resolution.
The League of
Are they a government or entity, or is that a nonprofit, or?
It's
we even
the
know?
Government of Conservation Voters.
The
No,
League of
because the-
Conservation? It says they're a nonprofit.
The League,
Yeah, I think
or
they're
is
a
it, no, that's,
nonprofit.
So,
yeah, New Jersey League of,
yeah, so
Conservation
that's just an
Voters.
it seems by on the surface that it's just a
yeah.
organization that decided to name themselves something.
No
And I don't
idea.
see there's any state or federal funds that are attached with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have 18 resolutions. Does anyone have any questions on resolutions? Don't see any questions. Anything on the ordinance? We have one ordinance. Does anyone have any old business? Does anyone have any new business? Does anyone from the public wish to be heard? Mr. Fleischner, you can go up.
I'm not here as a member of the public. I'm here as the chairman of the Environmental Committee. First,
Joe, could you just speak into the mic a little
Yeah,
bit
we
more
can't
so
hear
we
you.
can pick you up?
I can't hear you.
Thank
yes,
you.
Michelle, is that
Thank
better?
you. Much better.
I am here as the chairman of the Environmental Committee, which asked me to come to this meeting. We did have a meeting on the beginning of the month, as we do, the first Wednesday of every month. And Mr. Ferrante was kind enough to attend our meeting. And if he was here, he would tell you it was quite vociferous, with a discussion of how money is spent. And basically, the big issue, and I'm going to backtrack a second. Please don't forget the well testing this Saturday from 9 to 11. Pay your money, pick up your materials, and you return them Monday morning at 7 a.m. And there will be donuts, which I will be providing. Coffee, you have to bring your own, but there will be donuts. Getting back to our meeting, we discussed for quite a while the situation of the lake, and there was a member who brought up some issues with regard to what the Pride Committee wants to do in that area. And it was felt quite strongly by the committee that we need really a plan for the lake. And to that effect, which I'm going to give everybody a handout, because this is like a planning board meeting where you get handouts, as Mr. Mania knows. You can start at this end and pass it down. There should be one for everyone. This was sent to me by Joe Pointek. Those of you familiar with Joe, he's like head of the Lake Committee. There is a Lake Committee in town. And he is also a member of our Environmental Committee. And a young lady from Mount Olive High School by the name of Sophia Lake, which is interesting, just finished an excellent research paper on an evaluation of current and past awareness of Bud Lake history and environmental issues. And she's presenting this on May 23rd. So the actual report we cannot give you as yet, because her first obligation is to present it, and this is a high school project, which is awesome. But Joe put together from the report positive points with the lake and negative issues with the lake. And our committee feels very strongly that the township needs to put together a overall plan for Bud Lake, what we're going to do with it. We all agree that Turkey Brook is really important, and that's what residents want, and the township has done an excellent job with Turkey Brook. Everyone is pleased. But we need to put together a formal plan of what we're going to do with Bud Lake, which is the largest natural lake in the state of New Jersey. And there are pros, there are cons. What we take from it obviously is up to all different individuals, but it is something that it's time for the council and the administration to put together a long-term plan. Someone who comes out of the corporate environment, 37 years, I've said this before, you need a 1, 3, 5, and 10-year plan. We should not just be spending money in different areas and then 2 years later we change our mind and we want to do something else. So I think it's really advisable for the council and administration to kind of put their heads together and say, what is it we want to do with Bud Lake? So anyway, you have this. This is from her report. We will get the formal 23-page presentation, which we will forward to you once it's available. And like I said, her first obligation is to get a good grade on that report, we hope. She's a remarkable young lady. And these are some issues that have been tackled. And as Mr. Mania knows, I've been involved with the lake since 1974. when there were a lot of other issues. So things have been up and down, but we need to address the lake as one big project. So with that said, now I'm going to turn around and be Joe Fleischner, 34 Karen Place in Bud Lake. I'd like to correct one of the newspapers, and it wasn't your paper, Mr. Nicastro, that made a statement, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, on money spent on the Seward House, that 50,000 approximately came from the municipality, and close to $500,000 in open space. So I got out my tax bill and I looked, and lo and behold, I'm taxed for open space money. So that's all public money that comes to the township. So I think the newspaper needs to correct that and say 550,000 approximately came from the taxpayers. And I would encourage this board and the administration to use a significant amount of open space money to fix up the lake area, the beach area, and I know we're not gonna have swimming there, and that's fine, but to make a nice park out of it. There is open space money, and I think that's where we need to spend it, between there and Turkey Brook. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you will take under advisement and get an active committee moving of officials in the township. Not a separate committee of people that then submit a recommendation. I think you folks have to put together a plan.
I have a question, Joe.
Sure.
You're not saying that we should stop funding for the Seward House?
That's up to you folks.
But I'm asking you.
I personally would not spend money on Seward, because it wasn't Mr. Seward with the Louisiana purchase. It had nothing to do. It was a farm, and that's great. I was in Pennsylvania.
I must say, you're my friend, but I disagree.
Yeah. And that's fine, but that's, that's a decision that you folks have to make. I would just like to see, because I've been here since 1974, and the place hasn't changed much. But we do have a beautiful park, which I think is great. So anyway, these are the issues that this young lady put together. I think we just need the council and the administration, again, to put together a real plan, what's gonna be done with Bud Lake. You need to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward to getting that report from her.
Joe?
Great.
Joe?
Oh, Colleen, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask if, when the girl's done with her report at the school, instead of just having a copy of it, can she come and make a presentation so we can have a discussion on it?
Well, I think we'll look at it first, then we can invite her.
Then we can invite her, yeah.
We can
Okay.
invite her after we see it. I agree, but let's look at it first and see what it
Okay.
is. I agree.
I agree, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Open the Mount Olive Township Council meeting for May 16th, 2017. Michelle, Open Public Meetings Act, please.
According to Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Here.
Mr. Ferrante? Mrs. Laybow?
Here.
Mr. Mania?
Here.
Mr. Stewart?
Here.
Mr. Roman?
Here.
Mr. Nacastro?
Here. Mr. Amianda, would you approve the minutes from the previous meeting, April 25th workshop and public meeting, please?
I make a motion for approval of the minutes of the previous meetings on April 25, 2017, work session and public meeting.
So moved.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. We have 29 pieces of correspondence. Anyone have anything on those? Seeing none, I open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 11-2017, an ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive, the County of Morris, and the State of New Jersey, authorizing the township to take certain dormant bonds and/or funds into Township General Fund if not claimed after notice and publication. Ms. Lay, oh, you're on there already. Mr. Mania?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that ordinance number 11-2017 be introduced by title and passed on first reading, and that a meeting will be held on
May 30th,
Wait, wrong
2000.
one,
It's
second.
a second reading.
Second reading.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's fine.
Number 4, you read.
Oh, because I was slated for the other one, that's why.
Yeah.
You got an extra one, a bonus, John.
I got a
Take away the
bonus.
other one and give it to someone.
Sorry about
You
that.
can blame Mr. Ferrante for,
Yeah.
Mr.
that's
Francis.
the-
You'll see it in the paycheck.
Thank you.
all you need to do is move it for approval.
What's that?
Number 4.
I move for adoption, final passage of ordinance number 11-2017.
Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Any council discussion? Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Lebaw?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Ordinance number 11-2017 is passed on second reading, and I hereby direct the clerk to forward a copy of the same to the mayor and publish the notice of adoption as required by law. I open the hearing to the public on ordinance number 12-2017, an ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive, County of Morris, and State of New Jersey, amending 375-18, vehicles over certain weights excluded of the Township Code to establish a uniform vehicle weight limit on Drakestown Road. Ms. Lebaugh?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for adoption and final passage of ordinance number 12-2017.
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Lebaw?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Next item on the agenda for first reading is ordinance number 13-2017, an ordinance of the Township of Mount Olive amending ordinance number 9-2017, which established salaries for the mayor, council, department head, supervisory personnel, employees of the Township Clerk's office. I'm going to switch that to Mr. Roman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that ordinance number 13-2017 be introduced by title and passed on first reading, and that a meeting be held on May 30th, 2017 at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, for consideration of second reading and passage of said ordinance, and that the clerk be directed to publish, post, and make available said ordinance in accordance with the requirements of law.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Anyone from the public? Seeing none, close to the public. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Lebaw?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. We have 18 resolutions. Anyone wish to move any to non-consent? Seeing none, Mr. Stewart, would you move resolutions 1 through 18?
Yes, I'd like to move for adoption and final passage, council resolutions 1 through 18.
Second.
Does anyone from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Any council discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
You got out of order.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Lebaw?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes. Mr. Roman, would you move the bill list, please?
I move for approval of the bill list.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mrs. Lebaw?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes.
Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Abstain on check 80240, yes to all others. Administrative reports. Laura, Mayor?
I'll be quick. First, let me be one of the first people to wish Colleen a happy birthday.
Thank you.
Another year older.
The big 6-0.
Wow. For the third time.
I know.
The Ferry and Pirate Festival is Saturday, May 20th. Special thanks to our sponsors, especially Bright Horizons, who continues to be our presenting sponsor, in Flanders Pediatric Dentistry, for the sponsoring our Enchanted Princess Luncheon. Last year, there were over 3,000 visitors. MOMAC this year will be sponsoring the Police Department baseball cards. The Police Department is hoping to be able to distribute them by our National Night Out, which is August 1st. And my office was able to secure a sponsor for the fireworks for that evening. Mike Patillo, once again, has stepped up to the plate.
Nice.
and has been extremely supportive, and I would like to take a moment to thank him and his company for everything that they do for Mount Olive Township. Coffee with the Cop is Saturday, May 20th, so you can go to Coffee for a Cop and then go to the Fairy and Pirate Festival. I hope to see everyone at both of those events, from 9 to 12 at Weiss Markets in Flanders. And finally, Raiders of the Lost Park Mud Run, which is Saturday, June 17th, already has 100 pre-registrations. And I can tell you that's one of the most popular events that we run in our recreation calendar. That's all I have.
What time, is that 9 AM Monday, Saturday for the Pirates, or is that later? I didn't hear.
The
Pirates,
Pirates,
You know what time it is?
I don't.
Okay, I wasn't sure, I'll look at
You
it.
just want to whip it
10.
out.
10.
10.
10 o'clock,
10.
okay.
We saw the
Thank you.
cue cards in the back.
Oh, okay, there it was,
Please,
I was holding
please.
it up, there's the key, okay.
Please don't ask me such difficult questions next time.
I'll make sure. Any old business? Any new business? Any legal matters?
Just a couple of things tonight. Earlier, you approved a resolution settling the cobblestone matter. You all should have received a memo on that. So that brings that to a close. And we should have a settlement in the affordable housing matter shortly, probably the next meeting or the meeting after that. So moving along.
Great, thank you very much. Administrative reports, Mr. Amianda, anything on Board of Ed or seniors?
Yes. Mount Olive Board of Education met on Monday, May 8, 2017, for work session at the Mount Olive Middle School at 6:30 p.m. It was Employees Recognition Day. The board recognized senior high school athletes. Next, the board recognized the teachers and support staff of 2016 to 2017 school year and handed out awards to them. Next, the board took action on personnel, curriculum and instruction, business policy and administration actions. The board approved a resolution to enter into agreement of sale for real estate property at 89 Route 46, which is also known as Badlake School, New Jersey, for $660,000. Okay, that's the price of the sale. The sale. The board also discussed parking issues at the high school and the traffic flow to turn left into Corey Road. The town traffic officer will do well to discuss the issue with the school administration. And that is the end of the school board report. And for the Mount Olive Township, Mount Olive seniors, it was the senior citizens club met on May 2nd, 2017. The board elected
There you go.
Okay. Mount Olive Senior Citizens Club met on May 2nd, 2017 for business session at 11 a.m. The club nominated and elected new club officers as follows: President Richard Haggard, Vice President Bill Nolan, Treasurer Ray Osha, Secretary Dorothy Lulu. Elected officers will be confirmed by the town clerk on June 2nd, 2017. And that's the end of the report from.
Thank you, Mr. Amianda. Mrs. Laybow, anything on economic, TNR, or open space?
Economic Development Committee, we haven't met. TNR, a couple of us volunteered for the rabies vaccination 2 weeks ago on a Friday night. It was, I was one of the volunteers. It was really good. Nice turnout, and nobody got bit, so that was good. It was close a couple times. And then for the Open Space Committee, we had a very, very nice meeting last week. And I want to thank Laura, our business administrator. One of the, she, along with Scott Gaskell, they were able to move at least our the trail report to the front page so people can see it, because you can't find the open space information. So we're going to continue to be working on that. Also, once the bike trail is finished, the Wiki Maps, when that's up and running, we'll be able to use that also with interaction with where our trails and such are. The other thing we had asked, the signs, we wanted to have signage at all of our trails so people know where the trails are. And so Laura asked us to make a list of like which one's the most important, and then we're gonna have to figure out a cost. Now, we only have $200 in the open space budget, I believe, for spending. So we might have to see if we can get funding for the sign, since it's for recreation for the public to see where these things are. So we'll be working on that. But the number one thing is to make the list of all the trails. So we're really excited to get that working. And most important, they mentioned several times at the meeting that every time money is spent from the Open Space Committee, the Open Space Board is never advised on what's going on with the money that we're, the board is there. We're supposed to be not overseeing, but at least being
Informed.
informed and, making recommendations and things of that nature, and that's not happening. So there's a lot of cases where it would have been a good idea if the board had been, notified. They could really, help out with a lot of information. So I just want to ask, if there's anything that's going on, if a memo could be sent out and say this is happening. And the other thing we would like, and Sherry's not here tonight, so I'll call her. We'd like to have a full financial report on what money was borrowed for Turkey Brook Park and the fields, how much has been paid off, what is left, all that. Just like an idea of trying to figure out where, how the money's been working. Because being on the Open Space Committee, a lot of people will say, oh yeah, I saw that on my tax bill. What are we paying that for? What did you do? And no, you can't, And they'd get the questions more than any of us because that's the committee they're on. So, as I see, Kathy, is there anything else? Do you think I covered it all? So that's it for now.
Actually, I'd like to chime in on the heels of what Colleen's saying. I would like to direct the administration to at least every 10 years or so to generate a report and disseminate it to the public or at the minimum to the council, indicating the projects that that are being spent with open space funds. That way, one, it allows us to be informed. So when we are approached in public, that we can are more readily available to answer those questions. So I think that's something that we should at least make a practice of, at least every 8 to 10 years, update, so that we have.
So you want to report in 2027? Is that what you're?
No, we'll report now.
Start now,
Start
but
now.
10 years, But let's, I'd like to at least start that practice.
And one other thing, adding to the conversation here with what Joe Fleischner was saying about with the lake and having a plan, the Open Space Committee should definitely be one of the committees that is included in that, because first of all, most of the people with the trails and everything else and the bog, the Open Space Committee knows more about sensitive areas such as the lake than probably most of the other groups. So that would be, I think, very, very important that that should be included in. And we do have trails. Oh, Kathy has. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I just think it'd be very important for the open space to be
You gotta go up there
included.
if we gotta say something. You have to go back up there.
Joe beat you to it.
Joe Fleischner again. I agree with Mr. Roman, but not 10 years, because chances are I've lived in this town for 43 years. It's changing drastically. In 10 years, you're not going to be here. I think, and I know it's a lot of work, but the reality is it probably there should be some kind of a report at the most every 3 years, at the most. Sort of like I've said, 1, 3, 5, and 10, that's your key in planning. Every year you should get together. Yeah, and I think, you know, I know it's work, but I think it's important that open space and the council gets a report, at least, I mean, I would love it every year, but, I mean, it all depends on the workload within the administration, and I think that's the key. But 10 years, like I said, folks, not gonna happen. If you think you can be here in 10 years, they hope they're gonna legalize pot. Thank you.
I don't know, I've been here for almost 18, I would have seen 2 of those reports.
Kathy Murphy, 31 Camelot Drive. I want to commend Sherry because she does send the Open Space Committee every month basically a report on the Open Space Trust and what money has been expended from it. What would be helpful to the Open Space Committee would be to understand what the schedule is for the retirement of debt. That isn't necessarily part of that report. So basically, when you're just looking over time, we know, for example, that we purchased Turkey Brook in 1996, and if you did a 20-year mortgage, then we've paid it off. And that money then would be put back into open space for further expenditures. So going forward, having a better grasp of what debt is being paid off would then show what is going to then become available for future use, whether it's purchases or park development or whatever. So I think that's more the gist, because Sherry has been very good about keeping us up on, you know, the expenditure end of it. So that's where the committee would need more help. So, just to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy, while you're here, I would ask that you, if you wouldn't mind, contact Laura at some point during next week or this week.
Okay.
About a particular piece of property that I think we need to take a look at that potentially we might want to put on the Rossi, if there's not any particular use that the township might have for that property in the future.
Will do, and also just keep in mind, if there's any other upcoming purchases that you need county money for, application deadlines will be coming up and you need to get appraisals done. And of course, the county money has been very good for us. We can get up to 100% of projects paid for, depending on.
This is a piece of property which is already owned by the
Already owned.
township.
Okay.
And I'm contemplating bringing it to council to put on the Rossi. But before I do, you know, having your experience looking at the property in terms of potential future development or access or any other factor that we might want to consider before putting it on the Rossi, which obviously would in perpetuity stop any development short of the whole process.
Maybe you could let me know later, because then I'll make sure that she has maps and stuff. Actually, Laura is the vice chair of Open Space.
Yeah, I'm talking about Laura Harris.
Oh, Laura Harris, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay, and I'll put together any maps or anything that's needed.
I don't think it's a large piece of property. I think I just need you to go look at it and say that the property has no real value to the township.
Sure.
Other than as open space.
Okay, no
Okay?
problem.
Thank you.
Very good.
Appreciate it.
Before Kathy goes down, Joe, I just wanted to ask Susan, for the cobblestone, and Kathy's on the Historic Society too, can we, would Historic Society want to go in there to take pictures for
We'd like to photo document. Anytime there's a historic building in town, something of significance, we'd like to at least photo document things before they get torn down or lost.
Coordinate that with, just run it by Fred and.
Okay, yeah, because you know how if I want to I want to see it too, but I think it's very important before anything
Can't
is
do it
done.
until we actually own the
Till
property.
we own it, right,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. When we
Yeah, at
get
some
to the
point.
point that we own it, that,
Before we go tearing stuff down.
yeah.
Don't remember.
Thank you.
Good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Colleen? Are you good? Okay.
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Maney, anything on planning board or,
Planning board, last
Legislative.
meeting, we approved a new owner for the old bus garage on Bartley Road. And I've passed there, and they've already done an excellent job of cleaning that property up.
I saw that the other day, too.
So I'm very happy to see it. And there was some environmental issues with that property that are being taken care of.
thank you.
It's my understanding that we're going to be coming with a zoning change in the trade zone consistent with the master plan that was adopted shortly, which relates to the sale of the 57 acres, and the process that will be required to ultimately lift any DEP restrictions which are on the property. So I would expect that we're going to see that from Fred's office sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Board of Health meets tomorrow evening, 6:30 here. Mr. Roman, anything on Rec or Pride?
Nothing on recreation. On Pride, we are waiting for the resolution of the outcome of the light poles at Turkey Brook, because currently, right now, no banners can be installed on the light poles. So we're trying to at least get that hammered out. And I was wondering if, Laura, if you could, when you get a chance, if you can hop onto that and see if we can move that along.
I spoke to Jim, he's been in touch with JCP&L, he's just waiting for them to respond.
Yeah, I think JCP&L is probably an acronym for, we'll get to that sometime. And then we're also moving forward with beautifying the Bud Lake Beach planter box. Currently, there's some tree stumps in there and some conduit, so the tree stumps have to be taken care of before we can at least, but right now it just looks like abandoned. And it's, people are already starting. Today there was already like 25, 30 people at the beach, and it was good to see that. Some kayakers out there already. Pride has also asked to have signage done for the entrance to Turkey Brook Greenway, along with an informative kiosk, because most people drive by don't even know that that's an access point to some of our trails. So I think by putting the signage at the entrance, one, it'll at least pique curiosity to step in. Once you drive in, you'll see the kiosk and it'll tell you bear left and there's a trail there. We also have a new member that has been appointed, Amanda Fink. So Pride Committee is growing, and that's all I have.
Thank you.
I just want to add to Alex, when we were at the Open Space Committee meeting last week, they had mentioned that there was, supplies had been donated to the town for the sign for the Greenway, and Laura was going to see if they could locate it to see where it was. I think it was 4x4s and a sign, yeah, so there was, we just got to find out where it is, because it was supposed to have been done already, but going to see where it ended
Still
up.
looking.
Well, hopefully they'll find it.
Yep.
Fine. Mr. Stewart, anything on MOTV or community action?
Nothing on MOTV, but Community Action Panel. Today was the annual community offering day. Today, focus was all on cybersecurity, and a big shout out and thank you to the Mount Olive PD for supporting that. They were one of the key speakers. Siemens had their head of corporate security also as a guest speaker today. Givaudan, the Mount Olive Area Chamber, and also the Bud Lake Fire Department for hosting it at their hall.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Mr. Fleishman? Sorry. That's all right.
That's pretty good. Joe Fleishman, 34 Cameron. With regard to what the mayor spoke, I'm chairman of the ordinance committee. We are meeting on Monday, and I hope the council will see the ordinance for the changing of the zoning for the trade zone shortly thereafter. You're also going to be receiving, if you have not received it yet, a new sign ordinance, which encompasses digital signs. With that being said, the sign out front, I can find money for a lot of other things, and you want to have the Pride Committee do something, I would suggest you go out and buy a new digital sign for the front of this complex, because it is very hard to read, because it's the old technology. Technology changes. You're not going to walk around with a cell phone that's this big. You want your little cell phone. So I think that the township, at this point, we should look into, I'd ask the administration to look into what a new, current, state-of-the-art digital sign for the front of this building, because people do rely on it. People do ride by it. Granted, at night, it lights up the whole neighborhood, depending on the colors. But there have been some changes to the specifications of digital signs. And I think the concept of having a digital sign in front of Town Hall is excellent, but you need a digital sign that really is very legible, and this one has issues. And like I said, you will be receiving a new sign ordinance, which encompasses digital signs, which meets all the codes, which are now in effect throughout the state. So I would request that you do that. And then getting back to, it's sort of like putting banners up on JCP&L poles. Don't build things before you have a plan for what you're gonna do with the whole area. That's business. For those of you that own businesses, if you just do one thing today and you don't have a plan for what you're gonna do next week or a year from now, you're gonna be out of business. It's common sense. Just put a plan together. That's all I ask you to do. I know you try and spend money wisely within the township, but this makes it a lot easier when you know where you're gonna be spending money a year from now, 3 or 5 years from now. You can change that plan every year, but go ahead and put together a plan that deals with the whole body. When you go to your physician, they check your blood pressure, they check your heart, they check other things. They don't just point to one little thing and say, okay, I'm just gonna check this. They don't. It's the same thing. We have to do that as a municipality. We have to look at everything. And I would encourage you to do it, because you do have the means to do it. You just have to act on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard? Seeing none, close to the public. Any council comments? Miss.
I just have a question for the mayor. How long do we have that sign out front? The electronic sign is like 4 or 5 years?
Definitely less than 10.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
because we
less than
only went
10.
from when Sean was here, and I
Yeah.
just got on council when we approved it.
And that wasn't
so-
cheap, I'll tell you that.
I don't have any problems with the current
No,
sign.
I-
It's not
Oh.
something that I'm looking to change. However, it's always been my position that we should look at other opportunities at the entrance to town on various aspects to be able to get our message out.
I agree.
And certainly something that I would ask that the planning board consider as the applicants come for signage, that as part of the approvals, that the township benefit through, you know, how the signs show 8 or 9 different advertisements. I know that the applicants who have either come or are coming will be able to provide the township with one of the turns in the advertising, which I think will be of incredible benefit to the township in a number of different areas in terms of advertising our programs, and as well as emergency, for emergency purposes.
Well, my question about the sign, let me interrupt you, is with the contract, when we bought it, was there any kind of upgrades when technology changed? Was
I'm
that-
sure not.
Yeah,
those are
okay.
just
I just
ordinary.
Sure,
wasn't
there's not-
sure.
it's- from my perspective, there's nothing wrong with the sign out front as it is currently situated. I mean, it's always nice to have something which is new and better, and, but it's not a priority expenditure at the present time. And I would think about putting, as I said, signs elsewhere in town
I agree.
and look at the new technology, but, mostly for the things that we advertise on the sign out front, I think it's still sufficient.
I'm standing up here again because unfortunately I disagree with the mayor, and we've disagreed before, so that's nothing new. But I hear from quite a few residents. We at the planning board hear from residents if they show up, because as you know, most people don't show up to meetings. But people constantly say, you can't read the sign.
put their glasses on.
Well, even with their glasses on, the reality is when that sign went in, it actually did not meet ordinances that existed. It did not. Let's be honest about it. Come on. It did not. The sign ordinance was never looked at. The individual did his best because he was told to put a sign, he put a sign, and he did a great job. But the reality is that sign meets none of the codes within even the state of New Jersey. So the only thing I'm saying is, yeah, if these things are expensive, maybe get a sponsor to pay for it. I don't care how you do it. I'm just saying put a sign that the residents of the township can read. Because I suggest you go out there, drive by at night when it's dark and see, and even during the day if the sun's shining on it, you can't read it. And anybody who can, God bless them.
I've never had a problem reading the sign.
To be honest, I gotta say the same thing, I've never had a problem.
I've never
It might
had a
be
problem.
bright, it was bright at times, but that's about
And
it.
it's been
There
dimmed
was-
like
there
three or
was a
four
period-
times.
There was a period of time where,
Right.
in the beginning, where it needed to be adjusted, it was
Right.
overly bright.
And it was overly
Right.
bright, but
It
now it's
was.
been, to be honest with you, it's been fine, and as the mayor says, I prefer to spend the money on new signs in other parts of town, and why waste whatever that was a
We
ton
have
of
a
money.
sign ordinance, okay, and I know there were people that wanted to see something approved in a previous digital sign that came before the planning board, and you could read the reasons why the board voted unanimously not to approve it. And I don't know where it stands. I'm sure they're gonna go to court or something, but we have, I think on that stretch of road alone, there's 16 or 18 signs, billboards, and there could be digital signs anywhere along that road. But that's all public record, and you could read it in the minutes. It's there. I'm just saying that the administration seems to always be able to find money for pet projects that they want to do, but they can never find money for pet projects that maybe other people might find of interest. So I would just suggest that you look into it. That's all I'm saying. Maybe it's not as expensive as we think. Unless we go and look, it's kind of hard to say. But it'd be nice to have the latest technology, similar to what's on Route 80.
Well, let me just respond to you, Joe, which I
Okay.
I generally don't like to do in public, because someone told me once that when you respond to somebody, at times when you're not 100% calm, you don't necessarily give the best response, but I'll do the best that I can.
I appreciate it.
To your response that, with regard to pet projects, all of the projects that we undertake are approved by the entire governing body. It's not an administrative thing. And they all benefit different people throughout the township. It doesn't benefit anybody sitting up here personally. Not one project has ever been accomplished by the governing body for the benefit of anyone sitting up here in the entire 20 years that I've been involved in Mount Olive government. That's number one. Number two, you started off with a decent proposition, which is, let's get rid of the sign because you can't read it, and then now you've gone in 3 different directions when I told you that I was not in favor of that project. The first direction that you went to was that it didn't meet code, when you started off by saying you can't read it. The next direction that you went, after I said I was not in favor of it, is that we do other things, and I'm not in favor of your project. I'm not, because the sign is adequate for the purposes on which we use it. And it was only installed a few years ago. I find nothing wrong with the sign now. I understand you do. And I understand you're telling me you must have discussions with numerous people who come up to you. I can't imagine that there must be 500-600 people who have come up to you as the person who's responsible for making sure that the sign is appropriate, and tell you, oh my God, you got to go to the town council and talk about the sign. How many people have come up to you? 2, 3, 5? Do you go around town and put yourself out there as the person that people speak to about the sign? So let's, and then to bring up with respect to, which I find to be actually pretty funny, the application which was denied, which I didn't take a position on at all, and for some reason you decided that I was in favor of that project when I never had a discussion with you about it, and you bring it up here, and I understand that it was denied, and I thought it was denied for the wrong reasons, traffic reasons, and I understand that the police came out against it, and that's within the purview of the board. I never took a public position with respect to that sign. I sat back and I I took the decision of the planning board as the group that heard the testimony and made the decision. I didn't say anything about it. I can tell you that I do feel that digital signs at the beginning of Route 46 in both directions and 206 at both directions is something that I think would benefit the township. Maybe not in that spot, maybe further up, closer to the trade zone would be more appropriate as you come into town. But I see those entrances and exits out of town as a beneficial area where we could communicate with the residents. And everybody knows that since I have been involved as mayor, and we've used every single area of communication that we can, via radio, via newspaper, via Facebook, via Twitter, via digital signs. And I can, honestly, I can say that one of the greatest achievements that I've had here representing the residents of Mount Olive is the communication effort that we have had. I see these digital signs, and I agree with you. I think the technology gets better and better, and the signs keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. You look at the new sign that's going in on the against the township's wishes at the transit site, and the one on Route 46, which are humongous. And ultimately, the world is going digital, and that's just the way that it's going to be, and everybody's going to go with it. Mount Olive, Randolph, Roxbury, the state of New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Japan, it's all going to end up being digital at some point because it makes business sense to people who actually have the commercial signs. Instead of having one sign, they now have 8 signs in one location. They're able to sell it, it makes economic sense, and we should be able to take part in those signs that come into town to be able to get our message out to the residents at no cost to the township, but as part of the application approval. So I know I touched on a number of broad subjects, Joe, in terms of my opposition to your comments here with respect to this. I didn't comment at all with respect to the lake issue. You know what, I'm all in favor of developing a plan for the lake. I kind of have my own plan in terms of what I want to do. I started to implement it by obtaining Highlands Preservation waiver for different aspects of the lake, which is almost impossible to do, which is going to be the pinnacle in terms of how we're ultimately going to develop Route 46. I also recognize that there are a number of people who have complained or want to see an improvement on the Route 46 corridor. People who think that the township has greater powers than we actually do in terms of property maintenance, in terms of knocking down buildings, in terms of bringing in commercial ratables into the township that people want to see, but ultimately we only have the ability to go out and to reach those people. And what I'm going to do actually is in an evening in June, I'm going to have a meeting with all of the administrative professionals relevant and discuss and put it out to the public and discuss issues related to the Route 46 corridor. Because I recognize that it is an important issue to a lot of people. I've already touched base with the professionals. We have to pick a date and we'll advertise it and we'll let people raise their issues in terms of what they want to see on Route 46. And the professionals will then be able to come back and say, can't be done. Can't be done for this reason, can be done for this reason. It's a good idea. So it will be both educational in terms of what can and can't be done on the Route 46 corridor, and hopefully it will lead to some additional ideas that we will be able to germinate into actually improving the Route 46 corridor.
Good idea. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good idea.
Can I reply? So 3 times you said you were addressing me, but you only looked at me 3 times. So I appreciate it.
I
No.
apologize. I do have difficulty looking at you because, to be quite honest with you, Joe, some of the things which you have said, like you're not supporting the mayor's program to other people, even when I don't even have a program, you've taken positions
Wait.
excuse me, you've taken positions inconsistent with me on the planning board. I can bring people in, Joe, who will confirm that you made comments with respect to You've made comments with respect. I don't care what the mayor wants. I don't support his program. Don't tell me you didn't say it, because I have.
So shall I publish your emails that you sent to me?
Why
Yes,
don't we,
yes, please do,
Why don't
Joe.
we, okay.
Please do.
Hey, Joe, let's not
My
this
friends
one.
in criminal justice will love it.
Joe, that actually, I wish that you do send it to criminal justice. I wish your friends there, like the people who come speak to you about the sign in front of the building, I'm sure you have great friends at criminal justice, send it. Send it, Joe.
Okay.
Joe, first of all, please don't tell me how to respond to you. Thank you for coming tonight. I appreciated your comments with respect to the lake. I don't appreciate your comments that were actually personal attacks on me.
Do we? Thank you. Council comments. Mr. Amianda.
No.
Mrs. Laybow.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Mania.
I just want to thank our new zoning officer. I don't even know his name,
Andre.
but I understand
Andre,
he
that's
was able
the
to
name.
get into that house on Mount Olive Road, which we've been trying
he?
for months.
Wow.
How did he do that?
Jump the fence.
I don't know how he did
They didn't
it,
know
but
what
he
it
did
was.
it.
So what happened when he
And I-
did it?
I don't have the details,
Oh.
but I know he got in
That's
there,
good.
and I want to congratulate him. Great job.
Is
Mr.
there-
Stewart.
None tonight.
Mr. Roman.
I have no comments.
And none from me. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all.